Welcome to the Thinking Abyss podcast, a philosophical journey through consciousness, reality, and the phenomena that challenge our understanding of existence. From ancient wisdom to cutting-edge theories, we explore where philosophy meets science and curiosity leads to the edge of the unknown.
Remember being, say, 8 years old, and those weeks just dragging before the school break.
Oh, absolutely, like geological time.
Exactly. They didn't just feel slow, they felt vast. Like time itself was thick, heavy.
Each day took forever.
Right. Summer vacation especially, that felt like this endless, epic story unfolding.
Drenched, yeah.
And now, you blink, suddenly the holidays are bearing down on us, and then poof, they're gone.
The seasons just whip by.
It's like, did someone hit fast forward on the planet when we weren't looking?
It certainly feels that way sometimes.
So this feeling, this subjective speed up of time as we get older, it's apparently so common it has a name, the holiday paradox.
The holiday paradox.
Yeah.
Because holidays seem to arrive faster each year.
And today, we're really going to try and unpack the sources on why this happens, because it's not just, fuzzy nostalgia.
No, not at all. There's actual science and philosophy behind it.
Yeah, scientists and thinkers have pinned down some pretty concrete reasons, things rooted in, math, how our brains work, memory.
It's a fascinating intersection of fields, all trying to explain this universal human experience.
So let's dive into those mechanisms.
It's a powerful thing, isn't it? Affects everyone, changes how we see our own lives unfolding.
Totally. And if we want to get why clock time and our cell time drift apart so much,
we probably need to start with the simplest, maybe most elegant explanation first, the quantitative one.
Okay. Quantitative. Math.
Basically, yeah. It's called the proportional theory of subjective time. And what's wild is how long ago someone figured this out.
Oh, yeah.
A French philosopher, Paul Janet, way back in 1877.
Wow. Okay, so what was his big idea?
His core idea was simple, but profound.
Yeah.
We don't measure time passing in absolute units, like seconds or hours.
We don't. How then?
We unconsciously measure it against, the total amount of time we've already lived, our accumulated life experience.
Huh. So time is relative to our own lifespan so far.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Measured in proportion to the life already lived.
Okay, let's put some numbers on that from the sources, because that sounds like it could make the acceleration really clear.
It does. Let's just take 1 year as our yardstick. Think about a little kid, maybe 5 years old.
Okay, 5 years old.
For that child, 1 single year is a massive 20% of their entire existence up to that point.
20%, right, that's huge. It's like a giant slice of everything they've ever known.
Monumental.
Yeah.
Dense. Probably packed with firsts. First time riding a bike, first grade, whatever it is.
So yeah, that summer vacation back then, it didn't just feel long. Proportionally, it was enormous. A huge fraction of their total memory bank.
It carried tremendous weight, experientially speaking.
Okay, now flip it. Fast forward.
Right. Now let's say you're 50. That same 1 year span.
Yeah.
It's now just 2% of your total lived experience.
Wow, only 2%, down from 20.
The relative size, the proportion, has shrunk by a factor of 10 compared to when you were 5.
So from that mathematical viewpoint alone, time is literally moving faster relative to our accumulated past.
It really is. It's an exponential decay in its relative significance.
And that model, just the math, it explains that curve we feel, doesn't it? Like the speed up feels fastest when you're young, say between 5 and 15.
The proportional jumps are biggest then.
And then the curve kind of flattens out a bit, but it keeps accelerating, just maybe less dramatically year to year.
It's a really neat, elegant model, but
There's always a but.
there is.
Yeah.
We have to admit its limits straight away. And this is where it gets, even more interesting, I think.
Okay.
If pure proportionality, just the math, was the only thing going on, then any period that was packed with events really dense with experiences,
Yeah.
it should always feel slow no matter how old you are.
Ah, I see. So if a 50-year-old takes a gap year, travels the world, has tons of new experiences.
Right, that year, proportionally, is still only 2% of their life. But experientially, it feels incredibly long when they look back, right? Much longer than a routine year at 50.
Yeah, it feels longer than the routine year, but maybe still not as endless as that childhood summer. The math explains the baseline trend, but not these variations based on content.
Exactly. The pure math struggles to fully account for the content of the time. Something more biological must be happening in the brain.
Okay, so that brings us to neuroscience then. The brain's internal clock, or lack thereof.
Precisely. We need to look at the brain's timekeeper. because the current understanding, backed up by a lot of neurobiology,
Yeah.
is that how we perceive time is deeply, intimately tied to how our brain processes and, crucially, stores new information.
Ah, so time perception is linked to memory formation.
Directly linked. It's not just about how much life you've lived, like Janet suggested, but about the quality and density of the information you're processing and recording during that life.
Quality and density, okay.
Think of it like this. When your brain is forced to work hard, to really engage,
Yeah.
time seems to expand.
Okay.
But when your brain can just coast along on autopilot, time compresses, shrinks.
And the main driver for making the brain work hard is novelty. New stuff.
That's the key mechanism, novelty. When we encounter something genuinely new, something unexpected, something that requires us to pay attention and adapt.
Like the first day at a new job.
Perfect example. Your neural networks have to fire much more intensely. There are no pre-existing patterns to rely on for, say, finding the coffee machine or understanding the new software.
Right, you're constantly figuring things out. It's exhausting.
That heightened activity demands serious cognitive effort. And as a result, the brain creates richer, more detailed, more vivid memory traces of that experience.
Which is why that first day, or maybe the first week, feels incredibly long, like you lived through a month's worth of experience in just a few days.
Exactly. The unfamiliarity, new faces, tasks, environment forces your brain into this high-gear processing mode. And that dense memory creation subjectively expands your sense of how much time passed.
Okay, but then adulthood kicks in, and we get efficient.
We get very efficient. And that leads us straight into what some call the efficiency trap.
The efficiency trap. I like that. Sounds ominous.
It kind of is, for subjective time at least.
Huh.
As adults, we thrive on routine, on predictability. It makes life manageable.
The morning coffee ritual, the commute you could do with your eyes closed, the familiar tasks at work.
Exactly. That autopilot mode is fantastic for conserving energy and getting things done, but it's absolutely lethal for making time feel substantial.
Why lethal?
Because the brain is, at its core, a pattern recognition machine. Once it recognizes a pattern like your morning routine, it minimizes the resources spent processing it. It goes into low power mode.
It doesn't need to meticulously record every single step of you brushing your teeth for the 10,000th time.
Precisely. It just flags it as routine morning stuff. Minimal neural activity required. Familiar info gets processed with incredible efficiency.
And the result of that efficiency?
Sparse memories. Compressed memories. When you look back at a typical routine week, the memory file is thin. There are hardly any unique data points to distinguish Monday from Tuesday.
So the whole week just feels like one indistinct blur.
Right. And because the memory occupies so little mental space, it feels like it passed in a flash. Our brain's efficiency is, in a way, penalizing our perception of time.
Wow. So being good at adulting makes time speed up. That's kind of depressing.
Well, there's solid scientific evidence backing this up. Dr. David Eagleman at Stanford, for instance, has done some really compelling work here.
Eagleman, right. I've heard his name. What did his experiments show?
He basically confirmed this link between novelty, attention, and how we perceive duration.
How did he test it?
In controlled settings, his team would show subject stimuli for fixed amounts of clock time. But sometimes during that interval, they'd introduce something unexpected, something attention-grabbing, really novel.
Okay.
And consistently, people overestimated how long the time interval lasted when the novel, surprising stimulus was present.
So the clock time was identical, but their subjective experience of that time was longer, just because something new and attention-grabbing happened.
Exactly that. The brain wasn't, perceiving time faster or slower in the moment. It was allocating more resources to encoding the novel event.
Making a richer memory.
Right. And that richer, denser memory, when accessed later, created the retrospective feeling or illusion that more time had passed. It confirms that novelty expands our recalled sense of duration.
So time perception isn't like a smooth clock ticking inside us. It's more like an assessment we make after the fact, based on how much memory we laid down.
That's a great way to put it. It's heavily based on memory density.
Okay, so this neuroscience angle combined with the memory density idea, that really helps explain the core holiday paradox, right?
It absolutely does. It synthesizes novelty, efficiency, memory density. It all comes down to how we assess time retrospectively.
Let's make it concrete. Contrast two common scenarios. The week-long vacation somewhere new versus the totally routine week at home.
Perfect contrast. Okay, vacation. You're somewhere unfamiliar. Your brain is working overtime, constantly processing.
New sights, sounds, smells, maybe a new language, different food.
Everything. It's nonstop data logging. Your brain is encoding rich, detailed memories almost constantly because so much is significant and new.
So when you look back on that 1-week trip,
Your mind retrieves this dense file folder packed with distinct, vivid memories. Because there are so many memorable moments packed in, the duration feels greatly expanded. That week felt like it lasted a month.
okay, now the routine week at home. Same 7 days on the calendar.
But what happens? Monday fades into Tuesday. Tuesday dissolves into Wednesday. You might struggle to remember what you even did on Tuesday afternoon.
Because, like the sources say, nothing distinctive happened.
Exactly. Your brain, running efficiently on routine, basically compressed the entire week into a single thin memory file labeled another work week.
Almost no unique data points.
Very few. So retrospectively, that compressed, sparse memory makes the entire week feel like it vanished in an instant, a blur.
And that difference in memory density directly explains the childhood experience.
It's the definitive explanation. For a child, almost everything is novel, or at least has elements of novelty.
New games, new things at school, new social rules to figure out. Even familiar places hold new details they haven't noticed before.
Their world is constantly demanding intense cognitive processing. They're always learning, always encoding.
Which creates those dense, detailed, time-expanding memories. Childhood summers felt infinite because, in terms of memory creation, they were incredibly rich.
Whereas adults, we've largely settled into predictable patterns. We've mastered our immediate environment. Our routines are set.
Our brains aren't easily surprised anymore.
Much less often, certainly. Which leads to thinner memories, less dense encoding, and that feeling of time slipping away quickly when we look back.
Okay, so proportionality sets the baseline. Novelty drives memory density, which shapes retrospective judgment. Is there another piece?
Yes. There's a third crucial pillar here, and that's the role of attention itself.
Attention. How does that fit in?
Well, psychological research consistently shows something interesting. Time tends to feel like it's passing slowly only when we are actively paying attention to its passage or to the details of the present moment.
Ah, like watching a pot waiting for it to boil.
Exactly. Or being stuck in traffic, acutely aware of every second ticking by. When you attend to time, it slows down.
And children, they're almost always in a state of heightened attention, aren't they?
It's almost their default state.
Oh.
Everything is potentially important information when you're learning about the world. They notice things.
Textures, colors, sounds, the way light hits something. Details adults just filter out completely.
We filter them out because we've learned they're usually irrelevant to our immediate goals. That constant, wide-open attention to sensory detail in children is key to keeping their subjective time slow.
Whereas we adults become masters of, you called it, aggressive sensory filtering.
We have to. To function in complex environments, offices, cities, we have to aggressively filter out the constant barrage of irrelevant stimuli. Traffic noise, background conversations, the hum of the air conditioner.
We focus only on what we need for the task at hand. It's essential for efficiency.
Absolutely essential.
Mm-hmm.
But there's that cost again.
The cost to our temporal experience.
Right. By paying less attention to the moment-to-moment richness of experience, we form less detailed memories. And those less detailed memories create that retrospective sense of time flying by.
So the very efficiency that lets us navigate adult life is simultaneously accelerating our subjective timeline.
That's a critical insight from the research. It's often not time itself speeding up, but our quality of attention to the moments within that time diminishing. We become experts at ignoring the present.
Okay, this is making a lot of sense. Proportionality, novelty, memory, attention. But are there other factors that deepen this? What about, say, emotions or even just getting older physically?
Great questions. We need to expand beyond just routine and novelty. Emotional intensity, for one, plays a huge role.
How so?
Think about highly emotional events. They don't have to be novel, necessarily, but if they're intense.
Like a first kiss. Or maybe something scary, like a near-miss car accident.
Exactly. Those kinds of events, positive or negative, often trigger that feeling of time slowing down, almost like slow motion.
Why does that happen?
Strong emotions flood the brain with neurochemicals, like adrenaline. This enhances alertness, focuses attention, and crucially boosts memory encoding.
So the brain flags these high-stakes moments as important, record everything.
Pretty much. It logs them with exceptional detail. And when you recall those memories, they feel temporally expanded because they're so rich and vivid.
Okay, but how does aging affect this?
Well, think about the frequency of these peak emotional events. As we get older, we tend to experience fewer of them, Or perhaps they feel less intense than when we were young.
Fewer firsts, maybe fewer major life transitions happening all at once.
Right. The thrill of first love, the anxiety of starting a career, the intense joy of major achievements. These might become less frequent or feel less earth-shattering.
So with fewer emotional peaks turbocharging our memory formation.
Our average daily experiences create weaker, flatter memory traces. Life might become more emotionally stable, which is often good for well-being.
But bad for making time feel substantial. It compresses our sense of time.
Exactly. Now, beyond the psychological, there are also some really interesting physiological hypotheses, ideas about actual physical changes in the aging brain.
Like what?
Some did suggest that, on average, as we age, our brains simply process information a bit more slowly.
Okay. Like neurotransmission speed decreases slightly, cognitive processing takes a fraction longer.
Yeah, things like that. And the hypothesis arising from this is quite intriguing.
Chiz.
Some researchers propose that our subjective sense of time is actually calibrated in part to our internal processing speed.
Huh. So as our own internal brain clock or processor slows down with age,
External time, clock time, the world happening outside us appears to speed up by comparison.
that clicks. It's like watching a fast movie on a slow computer.
Yeah.
The external world seems to be rushing past because our internal system can't keep pace.
It's a compelling idea. Our own processing delay makes the external world feel accelerated relative to our internal experience.
Can we link that to specific brain chemistry?
Potentially, yes. Dopamine is a key player here.
Dopamine, right, involved in reward, motivation.
And attention. Crucially, dopamine levels often shift and sometimes decrease as part of the natural aging process for many people.
And if dopamine is linked to the brain's internal timekeeping.
Lower levels are associated with reduced attention to what's going on around us and also with less effective memory formation.
Both of which we've already identified as drivers of faster subjective time.
Exactly. So changes in neurochemistry, like dopamine, could be another biological factor contributing to this feeling.
Wow. Okay, so we have math, memory, attention, emotion, even brain processing speed. Anything else piling on? What about the world we live in now?
Ah, yes. We absolutely have to consider the potential impact of the modern digital age. This might be pushing the acceleration even further than for previous generations.
How so? Seems like we have more novelty now, with constant information streams.
That's the paradox. We are bombarded with novelty smartphones, news feeds, social media, an endless river of new data points.
So shouldn't that slow time down based on what we just discussed?
You'd think so, but the way this information is delivered is key. It comes in incredibly brief, fragmented doses.
Little snippets. Headlines, notifications, short videos.
Right. This constant, rapid-fire context switching prevents deep, sustained engagement with any single thing.
You don't really dive deep into any one topic or experience.
Rarely. So instead of forcing the sustained attention needed for rich memory formation, we hop from one shallow interaction to the next.
Resulting in
A high volume of input, yes, but ultimately shallow memory traces. Lots of fleeting novelty, but it doesn't stick in a way that expands time. It leads to sparse, compressed memories despite the information overload.
And you mentioned the endless scroll on social media.
That's a perfect storm for what researchers call temporal flattening.
Temporal flattening.
Yeah, think about your feed. You see something from yesterday right next to a photo from 3 weeks ago, mixed with a live update happening right now. It all exists in this continuous, undifferentiated present.
Ah, right. It becomes really hard to mentally tag when something happened. Was that funny video yesterday or last Tuesday?
Exactly. That loss of clear temporal markers, that inability to easily distinguish when events occurred relative to each other, is a massive compression mechanism,
The brain has no clear timeline to anchor the memories to.
making it all feel like it happened recently but vaguely, which contributes to that sense of time just rushing by in an undifferentiated stream, a loss of temporal architecture in our recall.
Okay, so we've got a multi-layered diagnosis here. Proportionality, memory density linked to novelty and attention, the efficiency trap, emotional intensity, slowing brain processing, dopamine, and now digital fragmentation. That's a lot.
It is. But the really empowering part comes next, shifting from just understanding the problem to figuring out what we can actually do about it.
Right. If novelty and attention are the main levers we can pull, how do we use them? Can we consciously slow things down?
The research strongly suggests we can. But first, it's worth noting, the sources mention individual differences. Not everyone feels this acceleration at the same rate.
Ah. Who resists it?
People who are naturally high in sensation seeking, maybe more cognitively flexible or just inherently curious, they often resist it because they instinctively or deliberately pursue novelty throughout life.
They keep learning new skills, traveling, putting themselves in unfamiliar situations.
Exactly. They're constantly nudging their brains out of that efficiency trap, forcing new encoding.
And conversely, those who really cling to rigid routines and resist change.
They tend to experience the acceleration most acutely. Maximum cognitive efficiency often equals maximum temporal compression. But the good news is, this isn't fixed. We can learn strategies.
Okay, let's hear them. What are the science-backed ways to push back?
All right, strategy 1 is the most direct application. Deliberate novelty seeking.
Doesn't have to be quitting your job and sailing around the world, right?
Okay. Not at all. It's about actively seeking out new experiences, even small ones, that force your brain to engage differently.
Like?
Taking a different route to work, one you actually have to navigate, trying a completely unfamiliar type of food, dedicating 15 minutes a day to learning a small new skill, online coding, juggling, anything complex.
Things that break the pattern and force active thought.
Precisely. They force your brain off autopilot and into active data logging mode. Creates denser memories, expands subjective time.
Okay, what's next?
Strategy 2 targets that aggressive filtering we talked about, mindfulness practice.
Meditation and that sort of thing.
Yes, essentially. These are forms of attention training. They teach us to notice the details we usually ignore, the actual sensation of breathing, the sounds in the room, the taste of our food.
So turning up the sensory input we normally tune out.
Exactly. By enhancing our awareness of the present moment, we create richer sensory data for our memories. More detail equals denser memory equals slower subjective time. Even just dedicating, say, 3 minutes of your commute to actively noticing 5 sounds you usually ignore can help.
Interrupting the efficiency loop. I like it. Number 3.
Practical and behavioral. Breaking routine. Routines are useful, but they are the enemy of temporal richness.
So shake things up deliberately.
Regularly. Rearrange your furniture, eat lunch at a different time or place, change the order you do your morning tasks. Anything that disrupts the well-worn path forces your brain to wake up and make active choices again.
Restores a bit of that figuring things out feeling.
Precisely. Strategy 4 is almost like mandatory novelty, travel and exploration.
Getting out of your usual environment.
Yes. New physical surroundings force cognitive engagement and sustained attention. Doesn't have to be international travel.
Exploring a neighborhood you don't know well. Visiting a local museum you've always skipped.
Perfect examples. A weekend trip to a nearby town you've never visited. The key is the cognitive disruption. Your brain can't use its usual shortcuts in a new place.
It's constantly scanning, learning, processing, all good for time expansion.
Absolutely. And finally, strategy 5, learning and challenge.
This sounds related to novelty seeking.
It is, but it emphasizes sustained attention. Engaging in activities that require concentration over time. Learning a musical instrument, seriously studying a new language, tackling complex puzzles or strategy games.
Things that demand real mental effort.
Yes. That concentrated effort creates the cognitive intensity needed for slower time perception. It has to be active learning, not just passively consuming information.
Okay, those are 5 solid strategies. Anything else?
There's one more fascinating point that sources bring up, kind of a meta-level thing. The paradox of awareness.
Paradox of awareness. What's that?
It's the idea that when you actively notice that time feels like it's speeding up and you pause to think about why, you're engaging in something called metacognitive monitoring. Basically, thinking about your own thinking, observing your own perception.
Okay, thinking about time.
That very act of consciously observing your experience of time is itself a form of sustained high-level attention.
Ah. So just being aware of the problem and reflecting on it engages the very mechanism, attention, that can counteract it.
How cool is that? Awareness itself becomes a tool. Simply noticing the speed up and consciously questioning it can, paradoxically, help to slow it down in that moment.
Okay, let's try to wrap this all up. We started with that common feeling, the holiday paradox, time just accelerating away from us. And we've seen it's not the clock on the wall. Time isn't physically speeding up. Instead, our engagement with time, our experience of it, diminishes.
Right. Driven by the efficiency of routine, the way our brains handle novelty, how we form memories, how much attention we pay.
And maybe even physiological changes and the effects of our digital lives.
But the biggest takeaway, I think, from digging into all this is that this acceleration isn't some inevitable fate. It's not a curse of aging we just have to accept.
Because we understand the mechanisms now.
Exactly. By understanding how novelty, attention, and memory work together, we actually gain a degree of control over our experiential time.
We can make choices to make time feel richer, deeper again.
It means subjective time, our felt sense of it, can be seen almost as a renewable resource. Not the fixed hours, but the quality of our experience within those hours.
So that feeling kids have, those endless summers, it's not necessarily lost forever.
So research suggests maybe not. It might just be waiting for us to consciously rediscover that childlike curiosity, that willingness to pay attention, to seek out the new.
If our perception of time is so tightly bound to the quality of our attention and our memories.
Then the question becomes personal, doesn't it?
Yeah.
For you listening.
Yeah.
What's one single, maybe small, new thing you could deliberately introduce into your routine tomorrow?
Something different enough, engaging enough, that it makes the day feel significant, makes it stand out in your memory later.
Because that intentional choice, that commitment to novelty and paying attention.
That seems to be how we push back against the blur, how we restore that subjective depth and make life feel more fully lived no matter what the calendar says.